Today we're going to look at aliases and how aliases can be used to save you a lot of time on complex commands or occasionally just very simple ones that you use so frequently it's not to be believed. So let's go ahead and look at aliases in bash. So first one right off is we can just put an alias straight into the bash terminal itself. So we say alias, then whatever it is that we want to have an alias for. So we're just going to call it yelp in this case. And then the command, which is enclosed in quotation marks. So in this case, I'm going to go with ping yahoo. So if I type yelp, I will then get this command to run. Simple, right? Straightforward. Now, there are some upsides and downsides to this, one of which is that this is now only in this session. So if I close the terminal and then go ahead and reopen it, my alias will no longer exist, which is kind of a downside, but depending on what you've done might also be an upside. So if I do this again, you can see Yelp actually triggers a completely different desktop guide instead, because that's the actual default command before I put an alias in front of it. Keep that in mind that if you put an alias over an existing command, you also won't be able to call that command. So think about that before doing it. So what's method 2? Well, method 2 is to, again, fire up a terminal, and in this case you're modifying the underlying bash itself. So here you can see there is no OK command. So I'm going to create an alias, and for this I'm going to modify the bashrc. Now this will affect technically all users of the system. So I'm going to go to the bottom, put in an alias, basically the same as you would at the command terminal in the previous example, only now it's going to be hard-coded into the file. So every time a bash terminal opens up, it will be loaded, and therefore it will be accessible. So if we try OK, we see no command found. We try lowercase, again no command found. Why? Because our bash terminal is already open. So if I go ahead and close that, open a new one, or I could have just opened a second one, would have had the same effect, and type OK, hey, there's my alias. Now, the reason that I show this is, for me, one of the time savings is not to have the 999 times typing out the same command. And quite frequently, the simplest commands are the ones that you repeat the most. And I'll give you a good example of this. I spend a lot of time checking code in and out of Git. And for me, I'm constantly forgetting to put Git in front of the command. Now, it might be just me personally, everyone's personal commands and how they remember or don't remember stuff up to them. So as an example, something like git push, I just alias out to push because I always forget to put the git in. Equally, same with commits and other parts. You can just put aliases. I mean, for me, typing git space every time I want to put a command is a pain in the ass. And frankly, there are better ways of doing it. So as an example, I alias them out. Why? Because it saves me 30 seconds. 10 seconds. Now, that's an exaggeration for sure. It probably saves me 2 seconds. But the point is, when you multiply that by doing it 30, 40 times a day, it actually really starts to add up. And that's for 1 or 2 commands. If you look at the more complicated ones, or ones that you use again on a regular basis, let's say you're something like, hey, add a new user, and there's 20 command switches in there. If you don't need to enter them all, it saves you a lot of time. So realistically, alias is very, very useful for your average admin. Now that sums it up for this video. If you liked it, you know what to do, and subscribe for more content.